Welcome to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, here on Tuesday, late in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, with my two comrades, Rob Veno and Tony Finn of Wagertalk. Welcome to the show, guys. And I guess we couldn't have anything but a letdown last night after what happened on Saturday with UCLA in that game. But we had discussed taking Timmy over 31.5. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. But we did have Butler making more than 2.5 3-pointers, and he made, I think, 4. And then we managed to get the one leg of the in-game betting that we were talking about at 172. But I didn't see in-game total below 156. Did any of you guys? I mean, it didn't even get close to 148. I think the low in-game was
5 minutes of that game.
Yeah,
6 minutes of that game or nothing. So I felt very comfortable that I was gonna, at the close of the first half, that I was gonna get my. No, I got my first half over. I was comfortable. I was gonna get my game over. And honestly, truthfully, guys, I had something to do, so I left the house about 15 or 20 minutes before the end of the game. And when I got home and saw the final score, I had to. I went to my office and broke out the box score and looked at the playlist and saw the ultimate dead zone there for about 5 minutes, and I just was I truly was surprised that did not exceed 160 long before end of game. Truthfully,
Yeah, the under bet was extraordinarily lucky for sure. It was I think they had 135, and it was still 6 minutes and 20 seconds.
At halftime, I mean, with 15 minutes to go in that game, they had more than I had 109 points or what it was. It's just those two teams. It's just we said it before we went on air, and that's why they play the game.
Yep.
Well, Scott Drew channeled a little of his inner Dean Smith, and Davion Mitchell became Phil Ford, and they must have ran the shot clock out 3 times, I think. In that last minutes, right? And there were a bunch of missed free throws. I remember one intentional foul at half court on what would have been a breakaway dunk where Gonzaga got 2 and the ball, and out of that whole miss only wound up getting 1 point. So there was a bunch of that going on in the last 6 minutes of that game. But yeah, Scott Drew just basically took the air out of the ball, and they became the Four Corners offense.
Which I always listen. I don't know if you paid it. If what you just said rings so true. It's almost as if a coach. Some coaches. I'm not saying this is Scott Drew. That some coaches are fearful of not playing by the rules or by what's traditionally believed to be good, sound, philosophically correct winning basketball. If you looked at the first half of that game, and Baylor had the ball, was trying to run that last 30 seconds out, guys. The last 30 seconds. This is the first half. It's the last 30 seconds. And they played that last 30 seconds like it was the final play of the game. And they were up by, I think, 12 at that time. And what happened? Ended up being a run out for a 2-pointer to make it a 10-point game. But I remember saying to the degenerates that I was hanging with at that time, saying, that is the crap that I don't get. These are smart guys. What is it about screwing 30 seconds of offense up so badly that it turns into 3 seconds of offense for your opponent when you're trying to basically hold a lead, and you fail as worse as you can fail other than the shot not being a 3-pointer. I mean, that's what it just doesn't make any sense. If play your offense. When you get the best shot, take it, and then play defense. And that's what it's about. Here, I'm going to start preaching and start getting passionate about crap.
You're right.
That's all right.
You're right, Tony, because I commented about it on Twitter with about 8.5 left in the first half. I thought Baylor got too cute trying to walk the ball up and run time off the clock, and all of a sudden it was a 9-2 Gonzaga run. I'm thinking, what are they doing stopping playing with 8.5 minutes left in the first half?
Well, drive by. Rob, all you feel free to do a Twitter drive-by, but sometimes talent outweighs coaching. And I will say it again
Last night.
listen, congratulations, Scott Drew. Congratulations to Baylor fans. But once again, I know it would be in my circle or our circle, and of my opinion that I thought that as well as Baylor played, a lot of it was despite Scott Drew. But he's still now a world champion, a college basketball world champion, and he deserves a couple butt slaps. There you go.
Well, where NBA draft stock is concerned, his players got a boost last night and the night before, and Gonzaga's players took a little nosedive on the draft boards, I think, because Corey Kispert is finding his way down the board into the middle to late second round, if at all, and Drew Timme, who didn't have the quickness to handle any of those players last night, probably a little bit down. But, hey, listen, the three guards, John, and we talked about a lot yesterday, and Tony, Davion Mitchell, Maceo Teague, Jared Butler, those guys did whatever they wanted. Between the legs, outside the three-point arc, you want to come get me? If you do, I'm going past you. If you don't, I'm going to drain a three. And those three guys made some money last night. I mean, Davion Mitchell, in all likelihood, guys, I mean, he's become a lottery pick for sure. And potentially, with his size, I think he's, 6'4", 6'5"?
Yeah.
The way he plays defense, the NBA loves defense as well. He's probably
absolutely.
Yeah. We all know how one game, all of us know and know it quite well. We could probably name, without hesitating, name 5 players who were outstanding in, be it the Super Bowl or something event like that. And that one single moment, that 15-minute moment, that game moment, changed their fiscal posture. I can think of a couple of Dallas Cowboys. I can think of a couple of. I can just think of a few that
Larry Brown
didn't. They got paid for that one moment. You know what? That one 15-minute moment, and I could get off on another tangent here, guys, and we could start talking about money being the how much money plays into all of this, and how I even believe it to be kind of an American virus, as opposed to a worldwide virus. But then that's another show.
Well, let me get off on this.
Damn it! What happened? Damn it! What happened to my total?
Let me real quick get off on this tangent, because I think it was the three of us, and the three of us do so many shows. Sometimes you forget who said.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think it was Tony who said that, generally speaking, a team has to have a tough game on their way to a national championship. But 3 of the last 6 years, we saw teams go 6-0 against the spread. And I think that, Gonzaga had their tough game Saturday, but I think we're all looking at Gonzaga being the team that would have gone 6-0 against the spread. Winds up being Baylor. Baylor was never touched point spread wise in this tournament. Didn't have a real close call. Blew everybody out. So it was, for those guys and what they might get paid in the NBA, even though there's a zillion eyes on them last night, throughout the tournament, that guard triplet, there's more, right? There's Meyer, there's the kid off the bench, Flagler. They all were tremendous, and they all will get paid now, Tone, the American virus.
Yeah, you're right. No. Something to be said. There is something to be said for someone who can perform to a level that it maybe just exceeds our expectations, or their historical results or performances. And when a person does that, or an individual does that, in our world, guys, it's typically going to get paid.
Tony, this is for you. Hang on 1 second.
All right. I hope it starts the cue. I hope it starts with Q and ends with
your
good time.
love affair with Scott Drew. I've got a really good friend of mine that I do some business with, who's an Oklahoma State alum, and it's not Joe Ranieri. And the kid comes from Oklahoma and has a lot of Texas friends. He's an Oklahoma State grad, like I say. Here's what he texted me this morning in a little group chat.
Okay.
When Scott Drew got that job in Waco, he bought a loaded Cadillac Escalade with spinner wheels. He told my buddy, when you pull up in that, no one wants to talk about dead kids in probation anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Amazing that 2003, what went on in Waco, right, with that basketball team, which was a tragic incident.
Yes.
But how many people remember that now, 18 years later, what happened?
I don't know who could forget. If you're our age, I don't know how you could forget it, Robert. Listen, it's all in that atmosphere in Waco, and I didn't mention it when I did my commentary in a small little spot on Scott Drew and Baylor and Waco, and how I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but recruiting to Waco, we've talked about this. It's not easy. It never has been easy to do when you're competing with Austin and Dallas, and the same. I used to say the same thing about Bill Snyder in Manhattan, Kansas, in Little Apple. What he was able to do, and the kids, and that's where the whole conversation. It wasn't very long, very far after that we had the football fiasco too.
Right.
Right. And so those guys down there, that staff and the administration and the people who have survived this millennium of tragedy and that's not the right word. The reality of our environment, and we do have some choices. You, me, all three of us. We have choices on where we live, who we associate with, and what we believe. And what we believe is typically a big part of it is just how we were brought up, and not necessarily our neighbors, but our parents. But we're influenced by all those things. And I'm sorry. Congratulations, Baylor. Congratulations, Scott Drew. But I'm not living in Waco. I'm not living in Texas.
I mean, we hijacked the show from you again, John. I apologize.
I know, right.
Hey,
I had myself on mute.
Yeah, I mean, those who remember what Dave Bliss did to cover that whole thing up was embarrassing.
Yes,
beyond
it
belief
was.
what happened there. So,
Yes,
again, congratulations to Baylor, but there is some history there that's not pretty.
Absolutely. And if you could have seen, and I won't bring him up, I'll end this. But when I did that bit on Baylor and Scott Drew, and basically told the line that I regret maybe saying was he cheats better than everyone else. What I really meant was there's some guys that cheat really well, and if you're in college basketball world, you live in that world, and you're a power program, and you're not cheating or pushing the boundaries, stretching those limits, you're not going to compete. You are going to struggle to compete, and that's what I meant by that. And I didn't really explain. But long story short is, wow, you mentioned that, and I've never forgotten it. But part of me wants to forget it. It wants me to forget that those kind of things actually happen in this day and age of technology, media, and how we're somehow in some ways protected from those things we can't see. They protect us to some degree, and they're great until they break. Those that we live in that kind of world. But it's hard to believe. You're right, Rob. It's really hard to believe. But if he did that, I didn't know he did that. But that's another chapter in my book. Thanks, Scott Drew.
There you go.
Yeah, it's gonna be a big book too. It's gonna be a publisher's nightmare.
Bigger. This COVID thing. Wow.
Just the fact checking alone.
Yeah. Oh, there will be no fact checking. This is my book.
Yep. IMO. That'd be the title of the book.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the NBA tonight, guys.
Yes.
I'll start us off here. I like the 76ers quite a bit. I'll be honest. When I first saw the line at -2, Sixers on the road, having Embiid back with Simmons, I thought, what's wrong with this line? What am I missing? But I got off of that pretty quickly, and I not only like the Sixers, but as we were talking, I was talking with Rob before we came on the air here, the Philly media is a great contrarian indicator. when they want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, it's time to take the baby and the bathwater and find a nice, safe place. And today was Ben Simmons' turn, as Rob mentioned, and how since he's been in Philly, I truly cannot understand what they're complaining about. The guy plays hard every game. He's shooting 57% from the field. He's making more of his free throws than any point of his career. Granted, I think it's like 62%, but it's on the rise. All you have to do is go to Magic Johnson and look up his stats in the first couple of years, and it's scary how close they really are. So I just, I wish they would just. You know what, Tony and Rob, they need to fact check themselves before stating this lunacy. So based on that, and the fervor of the people calling in is always off the charts. We should have traded him. We should have traded him. We could have got Lowry for him. Well, okay.
What kind of trade would that be?
Well,
that would be a horrible trade.
Here's the opportunity that these people have presented, at least in my opinion, myself. And that would be Ben Simmons, and I'm going to pull it up here. The NBA player props, and you know where I'm going with this. Points, rebounds, and assists.
Over. I'll take them.
Yep, over. 27.5, minus 107 VIG.
I'm in.
And then I'm going to do a triple-double, mainly because I'm upset with the way the media's treated him today. There's no machine learning behind this, and it is pizza money. So, you can always eat cauliflower if you run out of pizza money. That's what my dad told me. So, Ben Simmons, triple-double, 10-1. That's all I have to say.
And I just want to mention this, John. In my world, where I live, cauliflower is more expensive than a bad pizza. That's absolute truth.
Up in this neck of the woods, we have gross things that are called cauliflower pizzas.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, there's no way.
That's a Winfrey deal, isn't it? That's Oprah's.
Whatever it is, it's something that will never enter my mouth. Never.
No. I want spicy Italian sausage and nothing. And none of this flat spicy. None of this flat sausage comes in rolls, and then you have to don't bring that shit to my table ever. I want the real thing.
Yeah, Philly's known for that kind of food to a certain, the Italian sausage, the cheesesteaks. Why don't maybe they should bash those?
I'm telling you.
That's fun.
So you guys on board with me on this, or are you going to now tell me that Boston's going to kill him?
No, I think we're getting. In truth, many will argue. I'll let you two. I think Rob and you guys are both really a good gauge. You're not afraid to tell me I'm an idiot, but I think we're getting a point or two of handicap because of how Boston played the last two games where they performed really well. What people aren't going to look at is who they beat.
Yeah,
and now we
exactly.
have a healthy Philly team against a pedestrian Boston team that without Hayward are not the same in transition. They're not creative. They're not the same team they were last year. And in a vacuum, Philly wins by double digits every time they play. That's my opinion.
I love it, Tony. What do you think, Rob?
I think, and Tone, you talked about this an awful lot last year. I remember your opinion was Boston could never win the Eastern Conference because they just have nothing inside the paint. Right. And that hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't.
They traded away Daniel Tice, and Tristan Thompson has been injured for about 10 days or so. They have nothing inside the paint. What's interesting to me is the way that this market has reacted all season long on any, first of all, meaningful injuries, but then again, even somewhat meaningful injuries. Philly opens up here 1.5. They still sit at 1.5, and yet Boston goes out to get Evan Fournier for a reason because they needed more scoring in that backcourt, and Evan Fournier is not playing, and the line doesn't go anywhere in this game.
Yep.
So to me, Philadelphia's got a lot of fundamental advantages here. Starts with Joel Embiid, of course. Yeah. And John, to your point about the town picking on Ben, Whatever they see last is what they're going to pick on, and it starts with our local media hosts who get the fan base riled up. Really, to tell you the truth, that's how it works. It doesn't work the other way around. It works with the hosts riling up the fans. But their gripe today is that Boston is the team that invented the picket defense inside the lane against Ben, and they were the ones who set the blueprint against Ben. And can Ben ever figure it out? But with Joel Embiid in the middle, I don't know that he even has to figure it out. All he has to do is feed Joel the ball, and Joel should have a huge night here. And the way Philadelphia plays defense is not the way Boston plays defense. So to me, I'm with Tony. I thought there was some value here on the 76ers. I just can't understand this number. Maybe people think Boston's coming because they're playing a little bit better as of late. But then again, check some box scores, and you'll see Evan Fournier has been a big part of that. 20-plus points his last game, and a big number the game before.
And they made like 23 three-pointers, I think, in that game against the Hornets that they dominated not a good team.
What's that?
The Hornets were depleted. We'll add that.
Yes, they are. They are now. They are absolutely. Who else did they beat in the last two games? The Hornets and who else?
Houston.
I mean, come on. Listen, they're professional ball. There's 30 of the best basketball players in the world between those two teams. But they're not the Sixers, and what the Sixers bring to the table. It's a completely different dinner.
Well, here's an interesting thing I just saw. They shot 52% against Houston. They haven't shot 50% since a game against Memphis. That is, I have to give credit for that. But then behind that, they were at Houston and shot 55%. At Brooklyn, at Toronto, shot 61. And Toronto's a mess. And then that's all I have for all the games going back to February 26th.
Yeah.
So that, there's more games where they shot under 42% than anything else. And they've gone under 5 times, not because their defense has gotten so good. It's because they're playing bad teams and their offense is just not clicking.
Yeah.
But I actually think that Simmons, the reason I do seriously like the triple-double bet is that Embiid is in the game. And I know people would say, well, why would you do a triple-double with Embiid in the game? Simmons usually gets double-doubles with rebounds and points. And he might be 1 or 2 off in the assists. Now he has reason to get the assist with Embiid. End of story.
Why would you open a restaurant in a plaza where there's 20 other restaurants, right? What sense does that make? Well, it makes perfect sense. If you do everything better, and that's the place where everyone goes to decide where they're going to eat, then you're the winner. And if you have an Embiid sitting on one side of the lane and you got Tony Finn on the other side of the lane, even if Embiid is looted up, if he's looted up, Tony's going to be better.
And I'll leave you with this too, because I protect Ben Simmons, because I protect players in general from the media when they start getting ridiculous. So, Who's Simmons going to cover tonight? He's going to cover the best man on the team, just like he has every single game. And that's probably Jaylen Brown and Tatum. And I bet you he covers both of them. And then I challenge anybody to watch the game. I've never been like this with you guys. I don't think I've ever been like this with anybody. But you watch the game and see what kind of defense Simmons brings, and I bet you he shuts them both down. Anybody he covers is going to have a nightmare. And it's not because of the media. No. He just does his job every single game.
And I'm not saying you're wrong, because you're probably right. But I'll guarantee you that no matter what happens, Philly wins. He does pretty good. That tomorrow they're still going to say, and next week and the next day, Ben Simmons is one of those guys that not only carries himself with the confidence that sometimes is misunderstood or maybe might appear to be cockiness. And that's the kind of guy I think he is, and he's had his moments too as a young man. But he's always going to have. That's the kind of guy that's always going to have haters, no matter how much he succeeds. That when he fails, it's one of those things that is an exponential. The failures are exponential, and the successes are microscopic to some people.
Hey, he wouldn't be playing at this level if he doesn't know already how to handle the media.
Yeah.
It's a one game phenomenon. I mean, he's hardly going to give it any thought at all going into this game.
Right,
But anyway,
that he'll constantly have haters. You're absolutely right, because there'll always be one aspect of Ben Simmons' game that they can pick on.
Always. There's probably 5.
And he, that's where he doesn't. In the past, he hasn't. In his initial couple of years, wasn't big on practicing jump shots and whatnot. So they always come back to that with Ben Simmons. John, to your point, if they want to shut both of those guys down, if they want to stop Jason Tatum, and I shouldn't use shut down, I would say contain, and maybe not let them get their season average. But if they want to stop Jaylen Brown, and they want to stop Jason Tatum at the same time, all you do is put Matisse Thybulle on the floor with Ben Simmons. Matisse Thybulle will take Jaylen Brown. They're both about 6'7". Matisse Thybulle's a defensive nightmare, and you let Simmons guard Jason Tatum. When Philly is motivated, and it's a broken record when I talk about this team, but when they're motivated and when they want to play defense, they're as good a defensive team as there is in the NBA with all of that length and all of that.
I think you're wrong. I think they're the best defensive team.
There you go. And you could argue that, Tone, and there's no wrong answer there. They certainly can shut people down and limit them to under 100 points. And, Boston brings that motivation, I think. It's a divisional rivalry, and we'll see what happens here. 1.5 to me just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, Ben, this is what I hope for Ben Simmons. Not that it's mission critical. It's never going to change. It's never going to make me hate Ben Simmons, but I would love to see Ben Simmons get really dirty, get really down, get really dirty, and make a couple sacrifice a couple summer sacrificial lambs, should I say, and improve himself shooting wise. If he can improve that shot, and I'm not talking about becoming Curry from the 3-point line. Right. I'm talking about being capable, confident, and that the defense actually is concerned that he might make it.
That's all it takes.
And how much better is Philly under that circumstance, as they are, all things equal, as who they stand today? How much better is Philly?
And he, as an individual, if that's the case, Tone, he becomes unguardable.
I could not agree more. Magic really wasn't guardable, and he wasn't. You put a big guy on him, he'd go around. You're right. He becomes one of those guys that's absolutely the worst thing on your day. If you have to play Philly, yes, it's gonna be miserable. It's a miserable experience. I love playing basketball. Well, tonight's gonna be miserable because we have to face Magic Johnson and Kareem Olajuwon. Hold on, we have to face Ben and Joel. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, and the difference in Ben Simmons improving a jump shot could be as simple as Doc Rivers. Because, side note, to those who aren't in the Philly area or who weren't aware of it, but Brett Brown, the former head coach, was very, very close friends with Ben Simmons' dad, which allowed Ben to
get away with
almost
crap.
all the shots. If I don't want to practice, I don't have to practice, and Brett Brown really wouldn't say anything because he's close friends with the family. Doc doesn't have that to worry about. Doc's going to tell you, we need A out of you, we need B out of you, we need C out of you if you want to win a title.
Doc is welcome.
I think Embiid and Simmons have both gotten that message loud and clear this year.
Yeah, and Doc will be welcome on our show, my show, anytime, because he's going to tell you what he thinks, and right or wrong, and that's fine. But he's not going to tiptoe around too much anything. Whether if you're his player or if you're his mom, if you're his kid, or if he hates you, he's going to tell you did something well. That's how I feel about. I think he's another guy that's gotten a bad beat or a bad rap at a couple places he's been. Obviously. Yep.
And lastly, with the Sixers, and we'll move on to another game here. So I have a dinner date with the wife coming up too. Isn't that great? Love it. And it's just a lot of fun. What was I talking about? The Sixers. So my machine learning stuff, and this is where I really like this part of this matchup. 76ers score 111 points or more, and they have the better, more efficient assist-to-turnover ratio. I think that's fair to say in this matchup, that there's a high probability that's going to happen. If those two things happen in road games, the Sixers are 76-10-2 for 88.4% against the spread. I don't need to say anything else. 111 points, better assist to turnover ratio on the road. Here, let's put in division.
Did you send
Against the division rival. Nah, no, I did it. I typed it in wrong. Sorry.
And how about Brad Stevens, Tony Finn? I mean,
Well,
Brad Stevens,
I didn't
for all of
mention
his
him because I was going to say
all of
something
his
bad. Huh?
defensive acumen. I mean, the guys, but I think he realizes he just doesn't have a good defensive ball club, and they just try to outscore you basically nowadays. They're not really predicated on any form of defense anymore. It's, can we score enough points? And I thought the Fournier trade was kind of a white flag raising or waving to playing defense for the remainder of the year. Let's get more point scorers, and we'll see if we can outscore some people.
Well, if that's the case, then if that's the case, then I guess, was it money? Then why in the world? Why would you? Well, maybe it wasn't money. Maybe it was just something that Haywood wanted to do. Wanted to get out of Boston. Maybe he just wanted to get out of Boston. But he's the guy that was, outside of having a big man. Without him, he's the guy that was. He's the major. If you look at some of the plus minus on those teams when Haywood's in the lineup, and the creativity he was able to bring to the court and confuse in transition, and not it wasn't they're all subtle. It's all subtle in the big picture, but they're not the same. I'm not afraid of Boston. Bring them on, I mean, if I'm the coach. And what I was going to say about Brad Stevens was, Brad Stevens was fairly confident and fairly cocky in the interviews. If you saw him, and cocky is the wrong word again. I don't want to be negative with Brad Stevens, who I like and who I think has done a good job in that transition from college to the NBA. But when he turned down this Indiana, I don't listen again. I don't blame him for turning down the Indiana gig either. But the way it was presented, it was like, I'm here in Boston. I'm here to stay forever. But I felt like there might have been some cracks in that armor of him being the head coach because of the way he had handled. I think Fournier, if he wants to outscore people, I don't know that he's doing. It doesn't seem to me that the system and the schemes that he's running are the most favorable. Agreed?
I definitely agree. I think
sometimes the groups don't respond, right? Like when Stan Van Gundy got hired in New Orleans, I initially thought, okay, it's a good offensive team that Stan's going to add some defensive concepts to, and that group just doesn't want to play defense, right?
I agree. You're right.
And
Listen,
maybe Brown and them, they actually, some insiders at times have referred to them as a little bit soft. Tatum, Brown, and I wouldn't put that label on Kemba Walker because Kemba Walker, I think injuries have set him back a bit, but he's a tough guy. But maybe they just don't have interest in their interest is more in scoring than it is in playing defense. And as a head coach of the NBA, it's hard to get around that. It's really hard to get around
Kemba. And for those who are listening, if you happen to be analytically inclined in any way, shape, or form, then look at the pick and roll numbers for this year's Boston team to last year's Boston team when Kemba Walker's healthy, and you will fall out of your chair. How much when Boston was at their best last year, how dependent they were on the Kemba in the pick and roll. The 80% of the time he had the ball in his hands, and it's not the case anymore. It's not. He hadn't been healthy, like you said. So what do you do? But without that too, this Boston team is doomed. And Boston Celtics lovers and all you with the green skin, I don't think you can argue with us on that. Just look at those numbers with Kemba Walker last year when they were successful, and how many times he had the ball in his hand, and how successful they were in the pick and roll. It's absolutely abysmal right now this year. Abysmal.
I think the chemistry is pretty bad too. And I'm going to write things out like I did there on the screen so I don't get myself in trouble with my mouth.
Oh,
it's much better. See, that looks like something that you would see somebody write from MIT, as opposed to me getting all upset because of what the media hurt my friend Ben Simmons' feelings.
Yeah.
That's a bunch of crap. Anyway, great breakdown of this whole game.
Tough time at some shows with me later on because I'm gonna. There's a really good chance I'm gonna hurt your feelings. No, not intentionally, but I might hurt my.
Oh, I mean, if it's against me, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
me either.
I learned that a long time ago.
If it's not against me, that means I'm not voicing. I'm not being strong enough because everything's about me. Okay, let's read this.
Okay, let's read this.
See, it's even polite. I didn't even misspell anything.
That works. You did live out lunch and where they ate, but that's pretty good. I like that.
Well, then it gets to be not a big enough sample size. It's like 7-0.
Yeah.
If they ate at a McDonald's in Boston.
Well, then yeah. I had, by the way, thanks. Thank you, Ronald. The double, delicious today, and the Shamrock Shake. Wow, good stuff.
You guys have to find out for me where Joe Ranieri's favorite place is to eat, and we'll put that into one of the betting systems one day. For the NBA show, which you guys should watch every single day.
I know what it is. I know where his hangout is in West Palm, and you would never connect the two. But Joe Ranieri, if I can't get a hold of Joe Ranieri and he won't answer cell, I just call Dunkin' Donuts right by his house.
Oh, I was going to say Cracker Barrel.
Dunkin' Donuts, coffee and donuts.
I'm writing this down.
Is Joe there? No, he took a dozen and took off. I hope you're watching, Joe.
Yep, here we go.
All right.
All right, so I want to, with the time we have remaining, which is about maybe 7 minutes here, why don't you guys both take a game that you like, and we'll make those the best bets for each one of you, because I think it's pretty obvious what the best bet is for all three of us tonight, especially me.
Especially you. Well, Tony,
go ahead, Robbie.
Or am I going first? I will.
You go first. That way. I mean, I won't. You don't copy off me. Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the first play I released to clients early this morning. I'm gonna let that go because that number has gotten a little bit out of control since early this morning. But I'll say this. Again, it's been a pretty good moneymaker to bet with injured teams this year just because of the overreaction to injuries.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm going to follow that same philosophy tonight because I like the Lakers. When you take the pieces away from Toronto that are taken away from them right now, Van Vliet, Kyle Lowry, and a third that I'm even missing off the top of my head here. But they're just not the same team. They played last night. They get a 105-103 win. I think barely they won. But to me, Toronto right now is a team that, aside from the two guys at the forward position, Siakam and Anunoby, really void of talent here. Gary Trent Jr. we like a little bit, but it just makes the bench so short against a Laker team that's coming off a miserable effort against the Clippers that, you know, they're talent-shy guys, but their mindset is we need to win a couple of games for Davis and LeBron James while they're out. So they feel that kind of pressure, the players that are playing right now. I think tonight's a very winnable game for them. Schroeder has a nice matchup at point guard. Should be good. They may get the big guy back tonight, Drummond. If they don't, Marc Gasol should be okay there. But I just think that Toronto, to me, is a team that has shown weakness in the last 3 weeks. I think that the minutes, when I looked at the minutes of Anunoby and Siakam last night, I saw 38 plus. I think maybe by the second half, those guys wear down here tonight in a back-to-back situation. So I like the Lakers. I thought the price did revert. We reversed favorites here. We went from 2.5 one side to 1 the other side. But I would still lay 1 with the Lakers. I think they're the team more focused. I think they're the team with, at this point in time, more depth. And I like the matchups on the floor. So off of the bad loss to the Clippers, I'll take LA -1, John. You can give me that one.
Yep, you got it. I like that game too. That's one I put out on Sports Memo today. And Mr. Tony, what is your preferred pick of the night?
I really like my card's fairly large, and I'm hoping not to run into some of the roadblocks or some of the speed bumps that I ran into yesterday. And I want to mention this. I was looking for a better price. To be honest with you, today we did the NBA show. Rob and I did the NBA show yesterday together. And if you remember what my best bet was, I put a best bet out on a team that was a road favorite. It was they've only been a favorite 3 times the entire season, and they'd never been a road favorite yet this year. And they went into to Oklahoma City and dominated that game from start to finish, not because of who they are, but because of who OKC has become. And that's they're shorthanded and is about as limp as an NBA team I've seen in quite a few years, guys. And we'll see how the odds makers and the books adjust to that, because after those last 2 games, they're going to have to do something, or we're going to continue to pick on that line. And you saw tonight, for instance, Detroit's a double-digit dog coming off a pretty good performance, and they're a double-digit dog against a team that's not real consistent. Listen. I was hoping that number would be like 8 or 9, Rob. And if it had been 8 or 9, I'm jumping right on. I'm jumping right on the back of that Denver group and riding them, to win or lose, hell or high water tonight. Instead, let's do something differently. I have been an advocate, and I have given the butt slaps to Portland and Dam all year. But what they've done, and what he was able to do during the McCullough injury, when they were playing shorthanded and playing back-to-backs, and they weren't. It wasn't a matter of whether you're going to, at that time, whether you're going to back Portland, whether you were going to put your money where your mouth flaps. It's a matter of, if you didn't like it, whether you're smart enough to step away from it, because just step away and get out of the room. And this is one of those situations where Portland comes off of an ass kicking of OKC. Was it OKC? Did they not absolutely embarrass OKC? Was it last week or last past weekend? Am I wrong about that? Yes.
Yeah.
They did.
Yes.
They embarrassed them, 133-85. Right.
Saturday.
Now, and they have who they've been, so they're carrying some of that. Some of those nuggets and some of those crumbs from the perception of being a good meal to take home or take away from the restaurant and on the road, to going into a Clippers team that I don't care what you say, if they don't perform well, it's not because they were outmatched or overmanned or the other team had more talents, because that's who they are. This is not a team that cares about the number 1 seed. This is not a team that cares about impressive wins. The number's right tonight where they can't help but cover it if, in fact, they want to win, and I think they do. 2 possessions where the points is typically 2 or 3, for me, is something I become leery and walk away from at many times when you have 2 teams like this that are in the conference together and they're capable, but not tonight. I really like the situation, and the Clippers. They can score at will against Portland, against this team, the defense that they play. And while Portland is extremely capable offensively, the Clippers are more capable than they put them in the same containers as Philadelphia. When they want to play defense, they're as good as they come.
Well done.
Take the Clippers.
Well done.
And real quick, Tone, how unfortunate is it for Portland that they get Nurkic back for about 3 or 4 games, and now he's out again tonight?
It's just that's
can't keep him in there. And
yeah, that's a good point. And I've said this so many times, and no one really ever writes me about it or disagrees with me. But what those guys did without McCollum, who I think who's behind McCollum on that bench, it's a little different now, but is a guy that's irreplaceable. He's irreplaceable, what he brings. And it required Lillard doing supernatural things to make up for that loss. But he's not a young guy. It's late in the season. Here's the time when, if you've watched enough basketball, and I know the 2 of you have, when a guy is exhausted, when he's just so damn. He's not going to show you. He's not going to tell you until he's in the game, and you can just see it. He's just exhausted, just wore down.
Especially that guy.
Yep.
He's so proud. He's one of the listen. Lillard's never going to tell you. This is a guy who everything he does, every minute on that court matters to him. It's unbelievable the kind of a person that and it's just there's not a lot of guys like that that just get better with age. And he's not a whine. He's not a whine. He's not going to get better with age.
But Boston Celtics could use a player like that. When you think about it, I mean, I'm not being critical or nasty here, but that's that chemistry part that I think Boston's missing because we've known over the years we associate Boston with tenacity. You go into the Garden, especially the old Garden, and it was hard as hell to come away with a win, no matter who you were, even the Lakers. But anyway.
When they turn the heat up to 140, it's tough to
Well, they didn't tell you that on the TV, though. I mean, that's what, they never said it. And those announcers, when they showed them on the TV, they weren't, like, sweating or anything. You couldn't even tell. But, yeah, you're right. And it did have a rather odoriferous characteristic inside the arena.
Yeah. It helped to have a lot of things. It helped to have Bird and McHale. It helped to have some players like McHale and back in the old days when the Garden was, you knew you were going to you knew that when you came out of the Garden that you were probably going to be beat. You were probably going to have lost, and not only going to lost, you're going to hurt for about 2 or 3 days. It bit you. It made you bleed. Crap. I listen to this day, you guys, still every once in a while when I have a free minute, I bring up old radio or old broadcast. Don't watch it. Just the vocal, the verbal broadcasts of the guys that were calling the Knicks and the Celtics games at that time, and a game between the Knicks and the Celtics, and the visual these guys would provide. You knew it was a boxing. It wasn't a basketball game. It's a damn fight. A hardwood brawl for 48 minutes. Good stuff, really good stuff.
Yeah.
And you knew that they had it was going to be hot. The humidity was going to be about 118% in the Garden. And you weren't that good. And you better be ready. That's I know we're aged. I'm aging myself and some of those things, but and I said this last night that if I wasn't on the show, but on a show that the Baylor's still pretty kind of old school. Those kids are not 4-star recruits. Unlike the Gonzaga guys who are Northwestern 4 stars, some of the best in that area. But even so, the Baylor plays with a much more street, kind of a street attitude.
I agree. Yep.
Where getting where I'm back at you, a lot more physical. And Gonzaga's more of what the NBA has become. It's much more finesse. Outside open shots. See if you can run faster than I can pass the basketball, and you're not, and if you execute like that, you're going to score. But yeah, Baylor plays that.
Like the difference between attending an MMA event or going to the symphony, or the ballet or something.
I tell you, I'm a little bit old school in that. I really like that kind of basketball. I like that kind of football. Although I've become in football, we really don't have much choice. We really don't, guys. Singletary and Butkus, they're not better than Mahomes throws the football. I mean, they're just not. And nothing they do is going to change that. In basketball, you can do some things as a team to still be physical and still be a little kind of have that street fight mentality. But I sure miss it. I miss it I miss it as much in college. We've talked about it on this program. When totals were 180. Big part of the reason they were 180 is because they didn't take those 3-point shots, and it was about
banging.
Can you stop me from bowling your ass over before I have the ball at the rim?
God help the referee if he called a charge.
It might be a sad state.
I don't think charging was actually a foul back then.
No blood, no foul.
Yep. Well, in the Philly area, we took it a step further. There was no autopsy, no foul when we
I
did
like
pickup games. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, then
Yeah.
I
You ran out
never
of
could-
players on certain nights, but, other than that, it was all right.
I'm not very smart, but I'm smart enough not to go to Philly if my team's playing there just to watch them. I'll be happy just to watch it on television because I'm not probably going to – I'm not going to make it out of the arena. No.
But they serve mezcal there or something, or?
Well, no, it wouldn't be that. It would be any – it wouldn't take much. It doesn't take much to get me riled up anyway. And I'm –
Yeah. I'll tell you one true fact about the family. I had, when I was working in Manhattan, I still had Philly season tickets, all 81 games, 21 years of them. 2 boys, 2 girls, great wife, and we went to a lot of games. We have yet to see an Eagles football game. We will instead drive to Baltimore when they do play the Ravens to see the Eagles play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can call me a scaredy cat and everything else, but when the boys were young, I didn't want to take, my 8-year-old son and run into a situation that wasn't going to be, good.
If you have a minute, listen to this, John, Rob, listen to this. This is not speak to what I believe Arrowhead to be or what it is, but my wife and I, in the early stages of our marriage, maybe the first 2 years, went to watch Denver and Kansas City at Arrowhead, Broncos, Chiefs, which was a division game, so it's a rivalry. But I'd had a couple of tequilas and a couple of drinks, and had a nice morning. It was before noon back then in the Central and Eastern time zones. It's not like here where if you're trashed by the time you go to a Raiders game, that if it happened to be a 10 o'clock in the morning game, then you probably were up all night, which is fine. But they kicked me out. I'm cheering for the Chiefs, and I had a nice little stack of Benjis on the game, and I was pretty vocal. And there was a couple in front of me that basically they turned around. I had no swear words, okay, guys, but I'm loud. And what I got to say, I had just if you don't believe me, ask me. I had an influence on that damn game, me alone, and I was loud. And they kicked me out because I was cheering too loudly for the team, for the home team, without cursing. And at that time, I knew the world had changed. That Finn.
That is ridiculous.
Finn that I was no longer politically correct, and I knew that. But here's what I've learned was it was no longer acceptable.
Well, I look at it this way. I don't think any of us have to worry about running for political office. So, the correctness of the whole situation.
She won't lie for me at all. I've asked her to lie for me a million times. She won't do it. She'll tell you, no, he wasn't cursing at all. He was just loud. And
that's crazy.
I hadn't spilled anything on him, nothing. And I've deserved to be. I've been kicked out of a few places, and deservedly so, but not that one.
Is the stupidest thing a fan anywhere can do when they're inebriated is to, at most places, a beer is probably $12 to $14 at the NFL level, right?
Yeah. If you think I'm spilling out on purpose, you're wrong. Yeah.
Well, but this is my question: is this the stupidest thing a human being called a fan can execute? And take that $14 beer and look at somebody that they just happen to not like at the time, and then pour it over their head.
I would.
Is there
a drink? If all it took is I didn't like the way they look, I would never have a drink in my whole life because always people around me I don't like the way they look. Well, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, I guess in that situation you would just tilt your head up so that when they poured it on you, half it would you'd enjoy and the other half would get over it all over you. You wouldn't really care either way.
I wouldn't even get mad about something like that. I would just say, listen, dude, if you're gonna just give me the $15 or give me the $15 and pretend like you poured it on me. I'll act like I didn't like it.
That's great, Tony. That's great. I love it.
Let's do that. But we're getting off. I'm getting off the subject a little bit. But everything you're saying, some of the things really bring up some situations with me and what's happened, which has been made my life really colorful and wonderful. Truthfully, I don't complain about too much. No one listens anyway, so I know that. I've learned that as well. I have the God-given right to complain. Nobody listens.
Just know this, Tony. Rob and I sincerely listen to you.
Oh yeah.
Don't ever forget that, no matter what.
Yeah, you're listening. Just pick up something that you can. Hold on. There's a part of Tony's wound that doesn't have any salt on it yet. Let me see if I can pour some. Bring it on, guys.
Thursday on the NBA tip-off show.
Yeah.
Oh, you two guys are on that on Thursday?
We do the Thursday show. Well, unless of course I've been kicked off. Rob won't get kicked off. I might get kicked off or something. But but yeah, that Thursday. Yeah, Joe. Joe. That's part of that. That's part of the skit. I get cut off. I get buzzed. I get abused, and I am too.
Is he sounding like a victim or what?
It's all true, though. It's all true.
Well, then he's not. Then he's not. Then it's abuse.
I'm telling you. It's all true.
I like it. I enjoy it. Listen, if that's all it takes to get on TV, I'm in. You can be on me. Just remember, with me, I might smile through it, and I might, but for the most part, what goes around comes around. I see it coming. You're not going to see it coming. That's damn different.
The last 10 minutes, I have learned a ton. I should have had my pen out for sure. But thanks for being on the show, both of you again. I mean, it's obviously the whole Predictive Playbook channel is starting to get a lot of traction, and a lot of it's because of you guys, and I really appreciate it.
I hope they they like being bored and hearing old man stories, and but that's what they're gonna get. I don't have any other kind.
Well, they must like it because they keep hanging around.
Good.
And for the most part, our plays have done well too.
Well, it helps to give them something to wait for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So reason to stick. Yeah. Which again, anything I tell you on this show, I'm a probabilities guy. I think you guys have explained that to the listeners.
Yep.
I bet on probabilities and intel. Sometimes I get some information that I believe is worth its weight in gold. That's why I call them mortal locks, because everything I do involves mortals, and we are imperfect, and being responsible. I haven't always been responsible, and if some people will tell you I'm still not responsible, and I won't mention their names, Susan. But their initials are Susan Finn, by the way. Here's the deal: you bet what you can afford to lose, and I'll never. Same with you guys. One of the things we never do, and I think you take pride in it, like I do, is when we put you on something, I'm never throw caution to the wind. Never throw caution to the wind. If I don't believe in it, and that I'm not going to tell you that I do. I believe in some things sometimes that don't come to fruition, but I passionately believe in them. At that time, I honestly, passionately believe in them.
I think he's definitely. I think he's definitely telling the truth, Rob.
Yeah, I am.
Hey, everything Tony says is the truth. Nothing but the truth.
At the time, I believe it passionately.
My problem, Tony, is this will be another show. Throwing caution to the wind. My problem is I've never been able to find the caution to throw it.
Oh, well.
And I keep searching and searching and searching.
Yeah.
It's like the Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I have today is guys, so and I don't share this with many people because I've had too many people tell me you shouldn't share this with people. But Tuesdays is not Taco Tuesday, although it's part of a staple. Taco Tuesday, $2 Tuesday at Wagertalk.
It's a fact.
Two for Tuesday. All those things are part of my a part of my existence, and but I'm also it's Degenerate Tuesday. I have a certain allotted amount of funds that I use for live in-game betting that are the stupidest, the most shoot from the hip. I got a feeling. I wonder if that feeling is gas or whether it's really accurate. That kind of deal. And I have fun on Tuesday nights.
It's so based on. Make sure you go get his. Make sure you go over to Wagertalk after that and get all his 4% and 5% plays.
Now this is no. It's not. I don't. That's not there. I'm talking about like I sit at my desk and I still win Tuesday nights. That there's absolutely no. There's no prerequisite. There are no guidelines to. I can do whatever the hell I want with my little coffer of pennies, and I can be degenerate to the maximum. And it's fun to do such. Couple. I'll say this. I hit a 7-team parlay, a 7-team parlay on Degenerate Tuesday one time, and I only put $25, just a $25 7-teamer, right? Give a shit. And about $2,800 later, the next Degenerate Tuesday was a party, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Well, with the final remarks here, do you guys want to do any plugs for any of the plays you got over at Wagertalk, or the ones that you might have tomorrow, or any subscriptions?
What do you got tonight, Rob?
I will say real quick, NBA, we have two 4% best bets up and available right now at wagertalk.com, and I do have a 4% in Major League Baseball as well. So it was a pretty big card. I heard you say earlier, Tony, that you thought your NBA card was pretty loaded.
Pretty
tonight.
large for me.
And I think that for myself it was the same way. Just some stuff stuck out here this evening. So visit wagertalk.com. You get all those plays. I know we're approaching tip-off, first pitch, and all that other stuff. So you want to get over there to wagertalk.com. The worst kept secret in NBA basketball today, as I look real quick at the other monitor, guys, Zion Williamson upgraded to probable. I think we knew that about 10 hours ago.
And for me, it's a very large. Let's put it this way. Yesterday ended up being a negative. I'm talking about a fairly large negative, one that would typically create me to have a drink before noon, but it didn't today. Just and I'm jumping right back into the web, the Striders web, with 4 NBA plays. There's one NBA play I really like, and there's one baseball play I really like, and for me, I name those private plays. They're my private plays, and it just means they're a 4% best bet. But it's my marketing and my my fancy upper crust name that I call them, whatever the hell it is. But long story short is that the baseball game is one I really like, and the basketball game as well is one I really like. So I have four NBA games. A lot of games for me. And of the card we have, 4 of them, a couple of them are early, and the other 2 are late. So I'm going to put a package up right now. I'm going to sell. What's today? I'm going to sell all 7. I have 3 Major League Baseball plays. I'm going to sell all 7 of my plays, which is about as big a card as I ever have, ever. On a Saturday, I don't rarely have it. I'm going to put all 7 plays up for $29. So you got about 10 minutes. If you're listening and you want to have all of them, you have all 7 for $29. I'll put them all together.
That's perfect. That's the 7-team $25 Degenerate Tuesday parlay. Perfect.
Yep.
I just thought about that. If you guys wake up in the morning and you see my that I went 7-0, know that I will come to another show. I will be another one of your shows, but there's a really good chance you're probably going to have to come get me out of rehab to go to the show. But
well, while you're at the rehab, know that I'm going to be bragging the daylights out of you in a 7-0 night, and that you said on this show, $29, you get them all 7 of them.
Yeah.
So even if you're in the rehab, we got you covered.
Somebody will listen, and they can afford to either rehab or jail, or the local jail. It's one of the 2 places I'm going to be. Come get me.
Sometimes they're both the same, I hear.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. No, I've never had to stay that long. My wife, she'll tell me I'm never doing this again. She always does it. She'll be there in 12 minutes to bail me out.
And I guess on that note, I'm starting to lose my voice now. Anyway, this is a blast, gentlemen. I really do appreciate you being on this show, and the time flies by, and it's all just fantastic stuff. And I can tell that people like hearing these stories. So we'll see you all tomorrow at 4:30. I did have David Berman of ESPN on today for the Masters. These two guys over here, I don't think they. The golf club is too small a stick. They like the hockey, which is easier to hit. But seriously, he has been on my show. I believe this was the 7th time, and his picks have been nothing but remarkable.
Wow!
All 6 weeks, lots of winners, a couple losers, but generally just something like I've never seen. Mm-hmm. So he's helped me win in my DraftKings lineups because I tweak one guy out, put another guy in. And, the Players' Championship, I finished 648th out of 154,000 entries.
That's pretty good.
Because I made that switch.
Yeah.
So make sure you check out that show, too. And we'll see you all tomorrow at 4:30ish. And for Rob Veno and Tony Finn and myself, John Ryan, may all the wins be yours.